Hey guys, how you doing? Okay, so 7 Days to Die has vehicles, and the vehicles are all they're all good. Okay, I don't think you know any one of them can be skipped if you can get them easily at various points in the game. But this is the gyrocopter. This is for many people the in-game vehicle. And for many people in the community, it's referred to the gyrocopter. It's referred to as the gyrocopter of death. And I think that's because people don't understand how to operate this vehicle safely. Well, if you didn't know, I'm not just a geophysicist, I'm a pilot. And so I think some basics from flight training will help folks understand what this critter is, what it isn't, and how you can take advantage of this aircraft, and it can make your life a lot better, a lot easier in game. So let's just talk about the basic physics of flight real quick. So when you're in the gyrocopter, hit the W key, and that moves you forward and accelerates you. You get faster and faster up to a maximum speed by holding down the W key. So S slows you down and will move you backwards on land, but very, very slowly, right? And then your A. Oh crap! I've never seen this before. Dang. It was a zombie bear dog assault of some kind. Weird. Okay, so that's dealt with. So you can go forward, you can go left and right, and you can slow down with your normal movement keys, whatever they're bound to. You also have pitch up and pitch down. Okay, pitch up is the space key, space bar, that's default, and then C is pitch down. Okay, that's default. Now, when it comes to aircraft, you need to be aware of lift, and you need to be aware of what's called drag or weight, gravity, whatnot. Okay, so you have an upward seeking force with lift and a downward seeking force that is created by gravity, obviously. Force equals mass 1, mass 2 divided by L squared times the gravitational constant universe, blah, 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 basic Newtonian gravimetric formula. We won't get into the relativistic stuff. That's more complicated, and we don't need it for slow speeds. So there we go. So you generate lift through an airfoil, okay? And they don't really show it here. This is just a bar, but it's actually a curved surface. It has a hump towards the front of the airfoil, and then it kind of trends down in that direction. And then the bottom is flat. Now what this does is the air across the top has a longer distance to travel. And because of Bernoulli's principle of fluid dynamics, if this one has to move further and this one moves a shorter distance, then by definition, and this is just rate times time equals distance, okay, by definition, this fluid is moving slower, and this one's moving faster because it's traveling a greater distance, okay, in the same amount of time. So the pressure, per Bernoulli's principle, the pressure on the top of the airfoil is lower than the pressure on the bottom of the airfoil, and you get a net result upward force. Greater pressure here, lower pressure there. That's your lift, okay? You generate lift by accelerating an airfoil through a fluid. In this case, the fluid is the atmosphere, air, okay? You have other airfoils on this aircraft, right there, the props. These props are also airfoils, and then their net resultant lift is in the forward direction, whatever, right? So it's just however you orient the airfoils. These here in the back, in the tail section, These are your horizontal stabilizers, okay? They are also airfoils, and they generate lift up here because what's happening is the center of gravity of your aircraft is the engineers, when they design it, they move the CG forward and back, and then the resultant lift force here allows you to balance the aircraft in level flight, or when you pull back on the stick, the elevators create more lift, right? I mean, wait, no, less lift, and so your nose, because the tail will drop, your nose will go up, and then when you push the stick forward, these generate more lift, which raises the tail and points your nose down. Okay, so you need to be aware of lift, right? And you need to be aware of what's called sink rate. And we're going to get into that in just a second. Let's get in the air here. I'm going to hold down the W key until I'm holding down the space button, space bar. And then you don't want to pull back too far because you'll get a tail strike. And that'll screw up your attempt to... Now, this is a shopping day for me, so we're going to kill two birds with one stone, if you'll excuse the pun. And I'm going to go look at the vendor's new stock, and we're going to talk about how this aircraft actually behaves in the air. You can pan your camera around, and all it does is tilt the aircraft left and right. It ought to put a yaw force, okay? And so it ought to cause a slight yaw to the left and right, but it doesn't, okay? So that's a little wonky flight physics, but you can actually use this to your advantage, because I think one of the biggest challenges of operating the gyrocopter safely is a lack of instruments. Okay, you're literally flying by the seat of your pants. It's as if you're in a 1918 biplane. You have no altimeter, you have no vertical speed indicator, you have no airspeed indicator, no turn indicator, no turn slip indicator, and so it's really difficult to fly this aircraft safely even in perfect visual conditions like this, where we have almost unlimited visibility and almost unlimited ceiling, unlimited with respect to this vehicle because it doesn't climb that high. And so you need to be aware of sink rate. And the easiest way to get in trouble is to fly this vehicle what you think of as level. Now, and I'm lagging. I don't know why it does this. Okay, now the vehicle is level, but if you pan, you can see with respect to the background that I am actually sinking. So you need a slight pitch up, a slight nose up in this aircraft. Now, we're going to talk, I'm going to land, and as you turn, you need to pitch up, okay? Because as you turn, you start to lose altitude, and that's actually correct. That's correct flight physics, because as you bank, what's happening is not all of your lift vector is pointed upward. It's now pointed to the side, and so you have less force taking you higher into the air or holding you steady. Okay, so let's talk about landing. Oh, here we go. I pitched up too much. Okay, so landing is a function of your speed across the ground, okay, your airspeed, and your sink rate, or your vertical speed, okay? And what you want to do is use your head. This is called the bug splat method, and pilots really do use this. This is visual. This is a VFR, visual flight rules technique. And what you do is you pick a point on your windshield. Since I don't have a windshield and I'm in third person, I'm going to use the head of my avatar as my aim point. And I'm going to use my head to aim at a point on the ground. And I'm going to fly the aircraft to that point. Okay? And what this does is you basically create a glide slope, which is a downward sloping, it looks like the hypotenuse on a triangle, okay? And you're flying that hypotenuse to that point on the ground. That's your aim point for landing. You'll wind up aiming, you'll wind up landing a little longer than your aim point. So you want to select your aim point a little bit before where you actually want to touch down, okay? And you want to start to slow the aircraft down. But you got to be careful with this gyrocopter because it doesn't behave like a helicopter purely, and it doesn't behave like a fixed wing aircraft purely, because if you can actually take off almost vertically in this aircraft, and I'll show that in a later video, and you can land almost vertically in this aircraft, and I'll show that later in a more advanced video. But what you want to do here, just to keep things nice and simple, okay, and you need to thrust a little bit like a spaceship here. And so let's aim just slightly to the side of that boulder. I'm gonna pitch down, tap your speed a little bit, pitching up and down, and then flare at the end. Get the nose up. There's a little bit of a rough bounce there. I didn't do that completely right. And you can skid it and then hit E and jump off once you've got the aircraft right where you want it parked. Okay? And coming down sideways and skidding on the mains, normally you don't do that. In a real plane, you will fuck it up. But in this game, it doesn't seem to want to pitch over and tip. And so you can do those skid landings like that quite safely. So like I said, this is a shopping day real quick, so let me... but it's basically, landing this aircraft is picking your aim point and then
you are
flying your head to that aim point and then pitching up. You can come in you can come in at full speed, which you normally can't do. You can do that in a real aircraft, but it takes skill and finesse. It doesn't take as much skill and finesse in this game. I have slammed this thing on the ground hard, and it's been just fine. And another thing you want to do, if you do lose control of the aircraft, stay in the aircraft. Stay with it as long as you possibly can, because if I understand things correctly, the fall distance is calculated based on where you exit the aircraft. Okay, and so if you can ride even if you've lost control of the aircraft, you can ride it all the way down to the ground, and you ought to be able to. Yeah, I'm not going to burn my grandpa's sauce for this. You ought to be able to take minimal to no falling damage. Okay.
I guess you're not so bad after all.
Let me do the vendor trick here real quick. I think what we'll do is we'll fly back to my main base. I was really hoping for an MP5, and the game just doesn't.
I got better things to do than stare at the likes of you.
Oh, shut up, cranky old bastard. So for departure, what you want to do is you need about here. Okay, this is how much run up space you're going to need before you can rotate, before VR. There's different velocities that pilots use to tell them when to do certain things in the aircraft, and so let's go ahead and depart. And you want to think about what you're flying into. I mean, when you first start operating the gyrocopter, don't take off towards mountains. Okay, not the end of the world. You can recover from it, but the safer departure route is right here. So just hold down W. Now hold down the space bar. Now let off the space bar so you don't get a tail strike. Go ahead and climb out. And as you climb out, as you turn, tap the space bar to keep your nose up. Okay. And now we'll go do a practice landing at my main base. And so watch that sync rate. Okay. I think this gets people in a lot of trouble. Now, as for trees, let's go ahead and descend down to treetop level here. And let's talk about tree strikes and flying at treetop level. The tree physics is wonky. The branches, most branches don't interact with the vehicle. But at a certain height, the trunk does. And I don't fully understand that yet. I've got 100 hours in this thing. And as you can see, I can go through the branches safely. And you can even hit the treetops. But at a certain point, the treetop starts to interact with you. I missed that one. And I don't fully understand what's going on there. You can see you got to watch that sync rate, right? That's where people get in trouble, is they're not managing their sync rate. One rule of thumb when it comes to just flying in general is you don't want to panic. Okay, here we go. So I hit so nose down, just stay with the aircraft. You're gonna be fine. Pitch up a little bit, And you see, I didn't take any damage. Okay? Stay with the aircraft. Don't panic. Don't overreact. Okay? That's what'll get you in trouble. If you start jamming on E keys and, don't take your finger off the W key. Keep power to the engine. Stay with the aircraft. Don't panic. And you should be okay. If you do want to bail, wait until just before you hit the ground. Okay? Some levels in parkour can help. That reduces your falling damage. I've got full 5 ranks. So when it comes to basic flight, you want to land on roads whenever you can. Okay, and you want to fly perpendicular, what we call base, and then right before you get to your intended runway, you're turning on final. And now, what you can do is line up the helmet. See there? And I'm going to fly the helmet to my intended touchdown point. And I'm going to go in full speed. Okay? And I'm a little long. And then I'm just going to come in nice and easy, little hop. And then you can just skid it and bail. And it'll stop once you bail. Okay? Nothing to it. Nothing to it at all. I am going to make a more advanced, I'm going to make an intermediate video, I'm going to make an advanced video, but that's the basics. Just stay with the aircraft. If you pitch up too high, so I'll go ahead and just crank her right here. Okay? I'm too high, I'm going to stall. Oh, and there we go. Just stay with the aircraft. Okay? I damaged the aircraft a little bit, but I didn't hurt myself. And by the way, you can do a roll in this thing. Let me show you. Let me get some altitude. You can do a roll. Let me see here. Oh, look out! It's a dare drop. Here we go. Watch. Oh, it did. There it goes. No, it won't do it. Okay. Well, let's get the nose down then. I have done rolls in this thing, but you see how ferocious my sink rate was. Okay. So you really got to watch that sink rate and manage it. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about some basics of navigation, how to get around if you don't have the map memorized. Let me show you a little a vertical landing here, and you just let it settle. And no one took any damage. I didn't take any damage. The vehicle didn't take any damage. It's not as bad as you think, okay? So anyway, guys, that's the basics of Gyrocopter. That's just the basics of Flight 101. I hope it helped. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.